Hey y'all, it's Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smoke. Our fans are our family, and family watches out for each other. Before you or your crew get on your motorcycles, remember, the safest ride is a sober ride. Ride sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by NHTSA.
Listeners of the Randomness and Nothing podcast, I think you're going to want to listen to this episode because we're living in this era of digital influencing, and everything that we think goes on online takes a lot of people behind the scenes to make these things happen. And sometimes what you see is not always respective of the work that people actually put in to get influencing. And it's not about followers, it's about fans. So we want to be clear about that. And today I have a very special guest, CEO of InfluencerNexus, Sarah Saffari. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to chat about some of these things.
Yeah, it's and just briefly, I don't want to overtalk you, but it seems like right now everybody kind of wants to get their digital footprint, get, out there and expose themselves and be brand ambassadors, so to speak. But there's a process and work involved with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. You're talking about on the side of creators wanting to become an influencer, essentially, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
There is definitely a process involved with that. Do you want to know a little bit about talk to me about what you want to talk about, like a little bit about how someone would get started from the ground up, or what?
The very specific. So we'll start briefly. You had your background where you were actually starting as a fitness trainer, right? And then your background was involved with fitness, and then eventually you had to kind of go online. And then you learn the basics of the nuts and bolts. So we can do it in two steps. We could be like how you learned, and then how you've transitioned to this career, and then how you got yourself where you started your career, where it became with influencers as well as businesses getting the right person that was actually matched with their brands.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more of a progressive transition than it might somehow seem online. I did start off my initial, I guess we can even call it an entrepreneurial endeavor, but so I'm Canadian, born and raised in Canada, and my first thing that I ever did was open a gym, but it wasn't because I wanted to open a gym. So I wanted to do online work. This was back when online work was not, it wasn't this hip, cool thing that it is now. It was obviously before COVID had hit and these things had become popular. And so I at that time had essentially failed my getting into physical therapy school, because I wanted to get into physical therapy school. I wanted to become a physical therapist or something like that. And honestly, I had applied to law school. I had applied to medical school, physical therapy. I was kind of all over the place. I hadn't gone in at that time. I was trying to get into the University of Edmonton. I didn't get into the University of Edmonton. So what I decided to do was I was like, forget it. I'm just going to go backpacking for a month with my girlfriend. I'm going to deal with my life later. And so it was about 2 weeks into the trip. We were in Panama, in an area called T.R.O.N. Yes. And we got to talking with another couple, and we found out that they were also working online. And the first thing that I said to them was, what is it that you guys do? And, they were teaching Spanish, that kind of thing. And then they were going on some pretty badass whale excursion. And I was like, so you guys are working from Panama, you're from the States, you're making money, and you're living across the world. And while that's not some novel concept today, it was a novel concept. And in that moment, it wasn't as profound and common as it is now. So I was like, I need that. Right. That's what I want to do. And so that got stuck in my head. I went back to Canada at that time. I started, heavily looking how to do personal training online, because that's what I was doing at the time alongside going to school. And all these different ads came up. Eventually I got pixeled, and I got this ad for coaching on how to, build your own online fitness business. I got on that call. I paid that guy 5 figures that I did not have at the time. And he was like, you got to open a gym. I was like, oh, okay, I just paid you a bunch of money. I'm going to do exactly what you say. So I ended up opening that gym. It did well really fast, but not because I had any business sense whatsoever. And I say that because, there are multiple stages in being able to actually build a business. And part of it is actually building a team. First it's learn sales, learn human relations, learn what works in your niche, et cetera, et cetera. But my biggest sticking point at that time was I had no idea how to replace myself. I didn't know how to build a team. I didn't know anything about HR, like the basics of really starting to get things off the ground. But Facebook ads at the time were really cheap. So I did what this guy told me, and I was doing high ticket coaching at the time, charging a couple grand for 90-day program, and the leads were $10. So the return on investment was very high at the time. The lead quality was very good. And so we brought in a lot of clients, but it wasn't what I wanted to do, right? I didn't want to have a gym. I didn't want to be in person. I didn't want to be tied down. And so essentially, long story short, 9 months later, I shut that thing down. And I started the whole thing over online, which was quite a struggle. Fast forward a couple of years, eventually figured out how to be able to successfully run that fitness business online. It wasn't through influencer marketing at all at that time for me. It was primarily through running ads and being very good at sales and knowing how to warm people up through different forms of funnels.
Awesome.
And so in doing that, I was then able to start teaching some other people how to do it, because we had a lot of people would start asking me like, okay, this is doing really well. I can see this is doing well for you. What are you doing? I'm doing this and this is not working. What are you doing? Started helping people for free. Eventually that turned into a company where we consulted creators on how to be able to build their own businesses, whether that was brand relationships, or whether that was them directly building their own business and offer, and doing copywriting, the sales strategy, the paid advertisement, growing their profiles, the branding. And then, ran that for several years. It was around 4 years we were running that company. And eventually, for a whole tide of reasons, I then transitioned to what we do now, which is working directly with creators and then partnering those creators with different brands that we currently work with.
What I thought was fascinating throughout that journey, is that your motto of your company is what I read was, I don't want to say motto, but a statement is, you can't be an influencer company without actually being an influencer previously. So you have the unique niche of being able to sit back and say, people were following me before I got into this space. And you did it because you had something you brought to the table that people wanted. I think oftentimes now, especially in this hot take society that we live in, people are often trying to, let me just go viral for a minute. Let me just make this one video to get, this spike in views, so to speak. When in reality, it's a process involved of something that somebody has to actually enjoy doing, the product they actually have to love using, that they can talk about in detail. I was watching one of your YouTube videos where, if a brand wants to partner with somebody, well, if you start asking for details of how they utilized it, well, I would thought we were just going to do it on this call. We could talk about it. Like, no, that's not how this really worked. Like, did you actually drink my milk? Did you add it to your cereal? Did you have it with your coffee, so to speak?
I think a lot of what you're saying is true. And I think that if you do take that mindset and direction when it comes to anything, but in this case, we're speaking to content creation and actually building a personal brand, your results are going to be dubious at best, to put it very simply. And so there is really, and this goes a little bit off topic, but there's really nothing that can be done that quickly. Anything worth having that can be done that quickly. And so, sure, you can go viral relatively quick. You can have 2 followers on TikTok and go viral next week. It's a skill.
Right.
Part of it is luck, and part of it is having the skill of knowing what types of things go viral for you, your page, your personality, the type of stuff that you're creating. But going viral doesn't in any way indicate that you're going to be successful from a personal brand perspective, from a financial perspective. Correct. If you're trying to monetize that brand, that takes time and that takes community. Going viral does not build you a community overnight. Building a community takes years and consistency. And although that sounds unsexy, it's the only types of creators that we've seen consistently monetize in a way where it's a full-time income. At the very least,
without
it's a
question,
full-time income, right? And so the necessary component is always going to be having that level of consistency. Of course, you need to be going in the right direction, but being consistent as you go in that right direction is the biggest thing.
Okay, so, obviously you've transitioned. You were an entrepreneur even when you didn't know you were an entrepreneur at those times, right? So here you are building a business. You said you had no business sense, but you kind of had to figure it out along the way. What was that process like where you're like, I didn't know anything about sales? Because sometimes people look at sales and they automatically get this very bad image in their mind when realistically all you're doing is fulfilling a need for a person in place.
Yes, I think it just really depends on if you genuinely believe in what you're selling and the prefixed beliefs that you have prior to selling whatever it is that you're trying to do. I think those two things have a factor. I think there is a naturalness to it to an extent, but it can absolutely be trained. So I'll give you an example. When I first started selling, I had a very negative mindset around sales in and of itself because I grew up in a very without getting political, in a very like left wing like family. They were very much so, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, you're going to take the safe route. Sales
Yeah.
is a scam, corporations are a scam. And so I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm scamming people by selling them fitness.
Yes. Yes.
We're laughing right now, Rashiba. I'm telling you, I
It's the
actually
truth.
genuinely believed it. Yeah, I believed it.
It's the truth. Yeah.
And that you better believe that's going to influence everything from your energy to how you speak to how you present yourself to how genuine you actually believe in the product, and that how that shows in how you
Right.
sell the product. So I think that's one of the most important things, is having a product that you're like, wow, this is a very irresistible offer. I would take this. They have nothing to lose in taking this. We're in a position right now. I mean, I'm in a position right now after quite a few years of experience where I'm like, okay, now I feel like we're in a place where our offer genuinely, it's irresistible. Like, you have nothing to lose and you have everything to gain by taking that offer. And I know those kinds of offers can be very difficult to make because I've been in the position where I'm trying to brainstorm and find that irresistible offer. But if you genuinely believe in what it is behind what you're doing, the rest of the process, it's not that difficult. It's not rocket science, so to speak, right? Because if the value is there, the purchase will be made. It's just learning how to position things in the right way, how to speak with people, human interactions, understanding who you're speaking to, right? There's different personalities.
Right.
There's people who are very much more hard-headed, people who are a little bit more calm. We call them sheep personalities. They're much more like timid or relaxed when it comes to this. So understanding who your prospect is, who you're speaking to, strategy and belief in the product are going to be the most important for sure.
So this is kind of a two-sided question, so to speak. There's two components to this question I'm asking. What do you say to the company that didn't want to necessarily have influencers, because there's different companies that are, they're very selective. I guess there's a difference between like a beverage and a shoe company, which is, more expressive or more hip and chic, versus a company that maybe like a law firm or something like that. That's like, we're going to be more, I don't want to say selective, but we're going to be a little more in control of how our product is displayed. And then for people who want to get into that space, what are the characteristics or pratfalls for them to avoid when presenting a product, so that there's a good fit in a long-term growth strategy?
Sorry, so what was your, I didn't understand the question that was directly directed to the brand side, the initial one.
So the brand side. So when you have companies that were previously not on board with having influencers, so to speak, like that's not what they were. What's that like bringing them to the table?
Actually, that's a really great question because we don't work with them, and I'll explain why. So when we first started doing influencer marketing, that was actually one of the biggest mistakes that we made. Was we were connecting with brands who didn't believe in influencer marketing, and we knew they didn't believe in influencer marketing. It's like trying to teach someone something that they have no desire to learn. It's not going to work.
Okay, that's powerful.
Because ultimately, and it seems clear. But it's not clearly, right? Because that was your question. And I was like, oh, okay, we can now show, here's this massive gap. We know this works. Let's show these brands that are missing this massive opportunity what they can do if they added this channel into what they're doing. It's a very logical way of thinking about it. It's how you just thought about it, right? However, just through experience and running this and working with several different brands who didn't originally run it, there's a lot more doubt and skepticism on the potential for it to work because of the doubt and skepticism. The budgets are reflective of that.
That's absolutely
right. So brands, and it's never about if the brand is big enough to put budget behind influencer marketing. It's how much that brand believes in influencer marketing, because we can have company A and company B be the exact same size, and company A is spending $100,000 a year on influencer marketing, and company B is spending $10 million a year on influencer marketing, right? Or it could be even
Right.
a much bigger difference than that. So it
Right.
isn't necessarily about the budget they have, but it's about the budget that they're allocating specifically to influencer marketing in and of itself because of how much they do or don't believe in it. So what happens when you
Right.
try to go after brands that have not had influencer marketing, do not have it, and don't know much about it, is you're really battling against teaching a concept and then selling someone into a concept that they've never tested before. And then they have to then sell their boss into it, and their boss has to sell their boss's boss into it. So you're
Right.
in an uphill battle when you take that direction. What we found
Yeah.
works better from a business perspective is saying, okay, we know this and this company, they already invest in influencer marketing. They already believe in it. But here's the gap A, B, and C here. Here's where I see they're doing this with influencers that could be improved. Here's where we can tweak strategy and scale at a more rapid and effective rate with lower budget, and really help brands that already believe in it optimize and increase their ROI, whatever that is, whether that's a CPC,
Correct.
whether that's a CPM, whether that's a direct purchase, whatever that might be, becomes a lot easier to help
Right.
those folks.
That's very powerful, right? So get people who are already on board or looking to trend in that direction is going to be a very positive outcome for both parties involved.
Yes.
So obviously, one of the big components that people have to talk about, obviously, I saw you talk was about fraud, right? When people decide to artificially inflate, and that affects both the influencer and the brand and the trust that you built with the clients that you have. So what are the pratfalls and what are the things that need to be looked into to try to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah. So it's actually a lot easier than one might think. So one of the just to clarify this issue really quickly is basically what happens is, there's bot farms. We know about this. We know that it exists, but there's also engagement farms, so to speak. So these are engagement groups of creators, typically within the same category, niche, sometimes even age group, and they're, let's say, in a massive WhatsApp group, they're in a massive Instagram group, whatever it might be, and they're sending each other links every time they make a post, and then going in and artificially inflating their own engagement by engaging in one another's posts as a, you get me, I'll get you back. And so those are a lot easier to actually be missed. And the reason why bots are a little easier to catch is because of the comment quality and what the profiles look like. If you have a bot, it's somewhat of a dubious link, profile link. You are getting a lot of emojis in terms of responses. It's a lot easier to be able to just even manually point it out. If you have creators that are commenting on other creators' profiles, oftentimes it just looks like another normal person that's just commenting on another creator's profile because they are making meaningful comments. And one of our KPIs for assessing if a creator actually has impact is how meaningful their comments are. Right? Is there purchase intent?
Yeah.
Are they asking where they got X, Y, or Z thing from? Are they asking questions about them? Do they seem interested in this creator's life, or are they sending a bunch of fire and heart emojis? These are two substantially different things, right? And so being able to call that out and assess it makes all the difference in the world, at least if you want to be a genuine talent rep, because you can have creators that have incredibly high engagement, hundreds of comments per post, sometimes thousands, and maybe 30% of them are genuine, and you will still have some brands reach out, but how much of an impact that's going to have to a brand is the area that we know where the problem's going to come in. So if you're taking on a creator that isn't of great quality, sure, you can get paid as a talent agency, but now you're not giving that brand what they deserve from their influencer program, and then they're going to think that their influencer program is failing for a reason that it shouldn't be.
Without question. So by having those safe guardrails in place, you're protecting yourself as well as the client that would want to bring on that prospective influencer.
Yes.
So it looks like you specialize in nutrition, fitness, fashion, skincare and beauty, food and drinks, and hotels, all of which seem to be high engagement and high activity sort of, I would say, businesses that involve transaction, people to people skills.
D2C.
That's really powerful stuff. So, and it looks like you've worked with some of the biggest brands as well too: Crunch Fitness, Sephora, eHarmony, Dove. That's a lot. How long has your company been around?
About 5 years.
That's absolutely amazing. So. Do you find now that everybody's quote unquote trying to be an influencer you set the bar kind of higher to who, like what they really have to accomplish in order for them to link with a brand, because now they're being inundated with multiple people who will just wear a pair of, Nikes or a pair of Adidas to try to connect with the brand, so to speak, to try to make that sort of situation happen for themselves.
I wouldn't say that everyone's trying to be an influencer, but I would say that the people who are trying to be influencers, often many of them try to do it via the overnight strategy. And as we know, the overnight strategy doesn't necessarily work. So, you become a creator, and if your entire purpose of becoming a creator is to monetize, and that shows from day one when you have 0 followers, you're never going to get to the point of becoming an influencer that can monetize your audience, Right. And something that I've seen, and that there's nothing wrong with monetizing, by the way. And I don't mean it like if you're becoming a creator to monetize and you should, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you go in there with the energy that, I'm just doing this because I want to make money from day one, there needs to be something outside of that as well. Right. So that can be a great motivating factor. That's okay. We all want to make money. We all want to get paid, and we all want to get paid for the work that we do. But it's more so, if you're a creator, you are serving an audience. And if you're serving an audience, you need to have something of value to offer. And if you don't have something of great value to offer for an extended period of time while you build that trust with that community, then you're going to give up before you get to the point where you can monetize in a healthy way. So while having that financial incentive is great and it's healthy and many people have it, you need to have something outside of that to maintain the level of consistency and quality your content would require to actually be able to reach that level sometime down the line.
I think it's always great when you have people who are like home builders or tool people, which is why it's really, because then they have a need that's being met for the audience that they're watching, right? So it's like, hey, I mean, I'm terrible at tools, right? Like, it's almost embarrassing. But like when you okay, let's say if you need to do something basic around the house, you're like, okay, YouTube. And then you listen to one of those high level experts and they're talking to you. And I'm sure that, most of these people are not great TV people, but they're passionate about the product that they use in their everyday lives to service customers. And then they're going into detail. This is how you do this. And they get specifics. I use this specific tool because it's better. And you're like, well, dang, that person could eventually connect it with something special because it's used in their everyday life, and they're not selling, but and then it evolves, so to speak, because of how powerful their message is and the audience that they're serving and the need that is being met at that time.
And I would, beg to argue that it's the same with many other niches. So if it's a fitness person, then the fitness person is showing you what movements are going to help you lose X thing or Y thing that you no longer want, or get a flatter tummy, or what movement's going to help you prevent Y type of injury. If you're a foodie creator, you're going to create hacks on how to do certain things while you're cooking that maybe you never knew before. A certain product that you didn't know if you added would make the food taste different in X or Y way. Or if you're a lifestyle creator and you want to show that you're doing home makeover, and you are bringing in a new bed and you want to film or vlog that entire process, right? So as long as it fits into something that you're doing and it stands out, right? Because one of the biggest things is there's tons of millennial and Gen Z influencers out there, and they're all doing very similar things. So what is going to be different from about you than other creators that will help you stand out? And it can be something as simple as your own quirks and your personality characteristics and how you present the same thing to your audience, right? It doesn't need to be, you have to like reinvent the wheel and do something completely different. But like, who are you and how are you presenting that version of you to your audience? So one thing I used to always say to health and wellness creators when they first came on is, they'd be like, oh, but they can reach out to, this creator and they can watch this YouTube video. I'm like, no, but they're signing your service because it's you. Because they know about you, they know your quirks, they feel comfortable with you, they've been following you, and they're bought into you, not everything you're going to show them in terms of the actual skills. So I think having a strong understanding of that is one of the most beneficial, because I've seen time and time again people getting stuck in indecision because they can't find, the perfect angle to start taking action on.
Well, I mean, every hotel has a bed and a fridge and a TV, but it's depending on the experience of said hotel and which one you're going to stay in, right? The details of that's really what it boils down to. I got to be honest with you. Like I said, I was really looking forward to this one because, it's so innovative and it's so forward thinking. What does the future hold for your company? And, just briefly give us an idea about the onboarding process, so to speak, when you are bringing a client on board. Business, please.
Do you mean bring on a client from the influencer side or from the brand side?
The brand side, please.
Okay, yes. So to answer your first question on what things look like, I have no idea. So the true, I'll give you what we hope to happen, and I'll give you why I told you that I have no idea. The reason why I say that is, I've been in business now for almost 10 years, not in influence marketing, but in business in and of itself for about 10 years. And I've learned during that time what you expect to happen almost never happens and it almost never happens when you expect it to happen. It will happen when it's supposed to happen. And it's great to have timelines and to have goals and to have a clear picture and direction as to where you want to go. But to try to control the outcome and time period for when that happens and how it comes to fruition ends up blocking you from different opportunities that otherwise would have come to fruition if you weren't so fixed in the direction you wanted to take to get there. So
Gotcha.
All that to say, I have no idea. We're open to different things. The idea is to continue to grow, to continue to build our current influencer roster. Our biggest goal is to have the strongest set of influencers that exist amongst our 3 countries, which is US, UK, and Canada at the moment, and then continue to build incredible campaigns for the brands that we work with, because we're at a point right now where we can essentially predict and guarantee ROIs, which is not the same place we were at maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So that's a very powerful indication for our brand if we can essentially guarantee them the exact KPIs that they're looking for.
That's wonderful. And, I think that with what you've established and built, is very, very a unique and rarefied space, and very few people can come from the authenticity that you did when it came to building it, because you saw that trip in Panama set the seeds for where you were going to be, where you are right now, where you'll continue to grow with your company. And I think it's wonderful. Like I said, I'm terrible at social online media, but I'm just terrible at it. Like all the nuances and the algorithms and things like that. It's like, I hate to say it, it's not pretty stuff. Like, like when you start, it's not for me. My mind doesn't really operate in that kind of rarefied space. But in order to get yourself out there, those are the things that you have to do if you want to accomplish something with your brand and your business from the creator side and the brand side, right? And they have to partner with people who know what they're talking about to get to those spaces. And I think they would link with you, and that's why they work with you. Just briefly, where can people find you and your company?
So they can check out the company at InfluencerNexus.com. And then if they want to have a conversation, I'm always on LinkedIn. So they can send me a message on LinkedIn, Sarah with an H, and then Saffari, like you're going on a safari, but 2 F's like frog.
Yeah. Listen, I got to be honest with you. It's tough to keep up with you because I've never felt, like I feel the energy and I'm like, I got to match this energy, right? Like I do martial arts, right?
Hopefully
like I'm serious.
Energy.
No, it's great energy. Like it's like
okay.
I have a black belt in karate, right? So it's like when you spar and then you realize like that person, like, oh crap, I better match that energy tone, right? Because I mean, like, so it's like, okay, well, this person is, there's a reason why she's successful in her field. I'm like, I better not, better get off my butt, so to speak. So
you just said something that was what we just talked about, which was matching the energy of a person on a sales call. Right. So you read my energy and you're in your head. You're like, oh, I got it. She's on this energy, this wavelength. I got to kind of start meeting her on this wavelength. 100%. That's what you do on a sales call. Like you just gave a perfect example of what you just did, what people should be doing on sales calls.
I got to be honest. The one thing that when I told you I was crappy with tools and stuff like that, I can't fix a car. I'm terrible with tools. Right. Like the one kind of skill that I have is I can read people. Right. Mm-hmm. Like I can shake somebody's hand. It's like in a movie where like the hair will either go on the back of my neck or I'm like, okay, we're going to be cool. I just know. I can just tell like how they look. Are they stuck looking at me when I talk? Are they fidgeting with something else? I can just like, I just have like that kind of talent for myself. So as soon as I felt like the way you were moving, I'm like, oh shoot, man, like this woman's going to smoke me.
We got to start moving like this too.
I'm like, I guess gangbusters right now. Like, man, I got to hit the gas. You know what I mean? So, I kind of at least have that in my back pocket, so to speak. So, I know you reached out to me. I know you're busy. Our schedules didn't line up a couple times. I really appreciate you sticking it out to be on my show, because if there's one thing that the world can be educated on, it's that it's fast paced and need people like you to make sure their brand is represented well, and the person trying to link up has the right person to reach out to connect them with those brands as an influencer.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much for having me on. I had fun.
It's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.